The Marine Corps recruiter looked at the kid standing in front of his desk and knew the answer before he asked the first question. June 1942. Every boy in America wanted to join the Marines after Pearl Harbor. This one looked about 14 years old. How tall are you? 5'5". Step on the scale. The needle swung to 110 pounds. The recruiter shook his head. Son, the Marine Corps needs men who can carry a 70-pound pack 20 miles and still fight at the end. You weigh less than the pack. The answer is no. Audie Murphy walked out of the recruiting office in Greenville, Texas. He had $1 in his pocket and no plan except to try again. He was 17 years old, but his birth certificate said 18 because his sister had lied for him. His mother was dead. His father had disappeared years ago. His younger brothers and sisters were in an orphanage because Audie could not afford to feed them. He needed this war. The war did not need him, but he needed it. To understand why, you need to know one thing about Audie Murphy. He had been shooting since he was 5 years old, not for sport, for survival. His family were sharecroppers in Hunt County, Texas, which meant they worked land they did not own and paid rent with whatever they grew. Most years they grew nothing. Audie learned to shoot because ammunition was cheaper than food at the store. If he hit a rabbit, the family ate. If he missed, they went hungry. By the time he was 10, Audie could hit a running rabbit at 100 yards. By 12, he was the best shot in the county. Not the best kid. The best. When his father left and his mother got sick, Audie became the provider. He dropped out of school in 5th grade. He picked cotton for $1 a day. He hunted every morning before dawn. He kept the family alive for 5 years. Then his mother died in 1941. Audie was 16 and suddenly responsible for 9 younger siblings. He tried. He worked every job he could find. But in rural Texas during the Depression, there were no jobs that paid enough to feed 9 children. By the end of the year, Audie had to put his brothers and sisters in an orphanage in Quinlan. He visited them once before he left. His youngest sister was 6. She asked when he was coming back. Audie told her he did not know. She cried. He did not. He had learned that crying did not fix anything. 3 months later, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Audie Murphy saw a way out. The army would feed him, pay him, give him purpose. If he sent money home, maybe he could get his brothers and sisters out of that orphanage. So he lied about his age and walked 12 miles to the recruiter. The Marines said no. The paratroopers said no. Finally, in June 1942, a tired Army recruiter with a quota to fill stamped his form. Welcome to the United States Army, Private Murphy. Basic training at Camp Walters was supposed to break men down and build them back as soldiers. For most recruits, it was the hardest thing they had ever done. For Audie Murphy, who had spent his childhood working 16-hour days and hunting to feed his family, it was just work. When other men complained about the marching and the push-ups, Audie said nothing. He had been waking up before dawn since he was 5 years old. Then they got to the rifle range. The Army issued every soldier an M1 Garand, 8 rounds, semi-automatic, accurate to 500 yards. The drill sergeant demonstrated proper shooting position and trigger control. Audie picked up the rifle and put 8 rounds through the center of the target at 200 yards. He reloaded. 8 more rounds. Perfect. Again. Perfect. The drill sergeant walked over. Where did you learn to shoot like that? Texas, sir. Been shooting since I was 5. The sergeant looked at the target, then at Audie, then back at the target. He made a note on his clipboard. This kid might actually survive. Audie shipped out to North Africa in February 1943 with Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. He had never been more than 50 miles from Hunt County. Now he was crossing an ocean to fight Germans he had never met in a war he barely understood. Company B spent 4 months in Morocco training for the invasion of Sicily. The men in Audie's squad were skeptical. The kid looked like he should still be in high school. Could he actually fight when bullets started flying? They found out in July 1943. Company B landed in Sicily as part of Operation Husky. The beach landing was chaotic but successful. By nightfall, the company had pushed 2 miles inland and was digging foxholes in an olive grove. The next morning, Company B advanced north toward Palermo. Around noon, they started taking rifle fire from a stone farmhouse 200 yards ahead. The company spread out and took cover behind a low stone wall. The captain called for mortars, but the mortar team was back with the supply column. Someone needed to get closer. A corporal from Ohio named Frank Kovach volunteered. He had been in the Army since 1940 and considered himself experienced. He looked at Audie and said, "Stay here, kid. Let the men who know what they are doing handle this." Kovach started crawling forward with 2 other soldiers. They made it 50 yards before a German machine gun opened up from a 2nd-story window. All 3 men went down. One was killed instantly. Kovach was hit in the leg. The 3rd man was wounded but crawled back to the wall. Kovach was screaming. The machine gun kept firing, raking the field. Every time someone tried to reach him, the gun drove them back. Audie watched this for 30 seconds. Then he picked up his M1 and started crawling toward the farmhouse. Not toward Kovach, toward the farmhouse itself. The private next to him grabbed his ankle. "What are you doing?" Audie did not answer. He kept crawling. The field was covered with low stone walls marking property lines. Audie moved from wall to wall, keeping stone between himself and the farmhouse. The German gunner could not see him. It took 10 minutes to get within 100 yards. Audie found a gap in the wall with a clear view of the 2nd-story window. He could see the machine gun barrel and the outline of the German behind it. The gunner was tracking back and forth, sweeping the field. Audie rested his rifle on the stone, controlled his breathing, and waited. Patient. He had learned patience hunting rabbits. You did not shoot until you had the shot. The German paused to adjust his position. Audie squeezed the trigger. 100 yards away, the gunner dropped. The machine gun went silent. Audie fired 3 more rounds through the window, then rolled behind the wall. He waited. No return fire. He could see movement inside. Another German was trying to get to the gun. Audie shot him too. He crawled closer, pulled a grenade, and threw it through the ground floor window. The explosion shattered glass and filled the room with smoke. Audie went in through the door with his rifle up. 2 Germans were down, one dead from the grenade, one wounded, reaching for his rifle. Audie kicked the rifle away and aimed his M1 at the German's chest. The German raised his hands. Company B secured the farmhouse. Medics ran out to get Kovach. They carried him back on a stretcher. He had been lying in that field for 40 minutes, bleeding, screaming, thinking he was going to die. That night, after the medics had patched him up and given him morphine, Kovach called Audie over to where he was lying on a cot waiting for evacuation. "You saved my life, kid. I was wrong about you." Audie nodded. "Get some rest, Corporal." But Kovach did not get rest. At Oro 300 hours, his wound got infected. By Oro 600, he was feverish. By noon, he was dead from sepsis. The medics said there was nothing they could have done. Sometimes wounds just went bad. Audie stood next to Kovach's body before they buried him. The corporal's eyes were still open. Audie reached down and closed them. He had seen his mother's eyes like that, open but not seeing, empty. The private from Pennsylvania came over. "You okay, Murphy?" Audie nodded, but he was not okay. He had saved Kovacs. He had done everything right, and Kovacs died anyway. Audie felt something break inside his chest, not his heart, something harder, the part that believed doing the right thing mattered. He walked away from Kovacs' grave and sat alone for an hour. For the first time since his mother died, Audie Murphy cried. Not because he was sad, because he was angry. Angry that Kovacs had died for nothing. Angry that the war did not care how brave you were or how hard you fought. When he was done crying, he wiped his face and went back to his squad. No one mentioned it. But the men looked at him differently after that. They had seen him fight. Now they had seen him grieve. He was not a kid anymore. He was a soldier. Company B fought through Sicily for 5 weeks. Audie was promoted to corporal. He killed at least 20 Germans that he knew of. He earned a Bronze Star. He did not care about the medal. He cared that every man in his squad was still alive. In September 1943, the 3rd Infantry Division landed at Salerno, Italy. The Italian campaign was brutal, not fast tank battles, just slow, grinding infantry combat through mountains and mud. Every hill cost blood. Every town cost lives. In January 1944, Company B landed at Anzio. The landing was supposed to break through to Rome. Instead, the Germans contained the beachhead and turned it into a 4-month siege. Company B spent 4 months in foxholes under constant artillery fire. Audie was promoted to sergeant. He was 19 years old. He had been in combat for 8 months. He had killed at least 50 Germans. He had nightmares every night. He could not sleep without hearing explosions. One afternoon in March, a mail truck made it through the German artillery to the front lines. Audie got a letter from his sister back in Texas. He opened it in his foxhole while German shells were falling 200 yards away. The letter said the orphanage was closing. His brothers and sisters were going to be split up and sent to different homes. They might never see each other again. His sister was asking if Audie could send money. If he could send enough, maybe they could rent a small house and keep the family together. Audie read the letter 3 times while artillery exploded in the distance. He folded it carefully and put it in his pocket. Then he picked up his rifle and checked that it was clean and loaded. A private in the foxhole next to him called over. "You okay, Sarge?" Audie looked at him. "I am fine. Keep your head down." But he was not fine. He understood now with perfect clarity why he had to survive this war. Not for glory, not for his country, for his brothers and sisters. They needed him. If he died, they would be scattered and lost. He could not let that happen. From that day forward, Audie Murphy fought differently, not recklessly, carefully. He took risks, but he calculated them. He killed Germans not because he hated them, but because they were obstacles between him and getting home. Every enemy he killed was one less threat to his survival. Every day he survived was one more day he could send money home. In May 1944, the Allies broke out of Anzio. Company B pushed toward Rome. The fighting was intense. On May 25th, near the town of Cisterna, Company B ran into a German strongpoint. 3 machine gun nests blocking the road. Audie took 2 men and flanked the German position. It took an hour to work around through the fields. When they got within 50 yards, Audie killed the first machine gun crew with 3 shots in 3 seconds. He threw grenades at the second nest and charged the third with his rifle firing. Both nests went down. Company B broke through. The captain recommended Audie for the Distinguished Service Cross. Rome fell 9 days later. By August 1944, Company B had been pulled out of Italy and sent to southern France for Operation Dragoon. Audie was now Staff Sergeant Murphy. He was 20 years old. He had been awarded the Bronze Star, 2 Silver Stars, and the Distinguished Service Cross. He had killed more than 100 Germans. The French campaign went faster than Italy. The German army was collapsing, falling back toward Germany. But they were not beaten. In September 1944, Company B reached the Vosges Mountains near the German border. This was where the Germans had decided to make their stand. Audie wrote another letter to his sister. He told her he was sending money. He told her to rent a house and get the kids out of the orphanage. He told her he would be home soon. He was lying about that last part. On January 25, 1945, Audie sat in a foxhole near the French town of Holtzwihr. It was night. The temperature was below freezing. Snow covered everything. In the distance, he could hear the sound of German tanks moving into position. Tomorrow was going to be bad. He could feel it. The Germans were massing for a counterattack. Company B was undermanned and low on ammunition. The odds were not good. Audie cleaned his rifle in the darkness. He checked the bolt. He counted his ammunition. 8 rounds in the rifle, 3 spare clips in his belt, 96 rounds total. He hoped it would be enough. A private in the next foxhole whispered over, "You think we will make it through tomorrow, Sarge?" Audie did not answer for a long time. Then he said, "Keep your rifle clean and stay close to me. We will be fine." Another lie. But it was the kind of lie soldiers told each other to get through the night. Audie finished cleaning his rifle. He loaded it. He laid down in the frozen mud and tried to sleep. In 6 hours, the sun would come up. In 7 hours, the German tanks would attack, and Audie Murphy would face the worst day of his life. The German tanks came at 1400 hours on January 26, 1945. Audie heard them before he saw them, that deep grinding sound of metal tracks on frozen ground. The sound got louder. 6 tanks emerging from the fog like iron ghosts. Behind them, hundreds of white-clad infantry spreading across the snow. Company B was dug in along the edge of the Bois de Riedveer forest. 118 men. They had lost 2 men to frostbite during the night. The company had 2 M10 tank destroyers for support. One was positioned 40 yards forward. The other sat behind the line as backup. Captain Anderson stood in his command post with binoculars, watching the German formation approach. He counted 6 tanks, Mark IVs, heavy armor. Behind them, at least 200 infantry, maybe more. The white winter camouflage made it hard to get an exact count. He turned to his radio man. "Get me battalion. We need armor support." The radio crackled with static. The radio man tried again. "Sir, I cannot get through. Too much interference." Anderson swore. He looked at his company. They were spread thin, exhausted, running on whatever kept men moving when everything said to quit. And now 6 tanks were coming at them. Audie was in a drainage ditch 20 yards behind the forward M10. He had his M1 carbine up, watching the German advance. Next to him was Private Danny Cooper, 19 years old, from Alabama. Danny had been with Company B for 2 months. This was his first major engagement. Danny looked at the tanks. "How many you count, Sarge?" 6 tanks, at least 200 infantry. Those are bad odds." "Yes," Audie said. "When the captain gives the order, we fall back to the tree line. Stay close to me." The German tanks kept advancing. 300 yards, 250. At 200 yards, the lead tank fired. The shell screamed overhead and exploded in the trees. The second shot hit the forward M10. Direct hit. The explosion was massive. Flames and black smoke shot 50 feet into the air. The M10 crew bailed out. 4 men scrambling through hatches, uniforms smoking. 1 man was on fire. He ran 10 steps screaming before 2 soldiers tackled him and beat out the flames. The M10 sat there burning, black smoke pouring from the hatches, ammunition inside starting to cook off with sharp cracking sounds. In a few minutes, the whole thing would explode. Captain Anderson made the call. He stood up and shouted over the noise. "Fall back! Everyone fall back to the trees!" Company B started pulling back. Men grabbed rifles, ammunition, the wounded. They ran through the snow toward the forest. German tanks fired. Shells hit the trees. Men went down. Medics tried to reach them. More shells. More men down. Audie grabbed Danny. "Let us go." They started running with everyone else. Audie looked back. The German tanks were at 100 yards now. The infantry behind them was moving fast, using the tanks as cover. In 2 minutes, they would overrun the American positions. In 5 minutes, they would be in the forest. Company B would be scattered, some captured, some killed. Then Audie looked at the burning M10. It was sitting there 50 yards ahead of the German line, flames pouring out, but the hull was intact, and mounted on top was a .50 caliber machine gun. Audie stopped running. Danny looked back. "Sarge, what are you doing?" Audie was staring at that burning tank. The .50 caliber was still there. If someone could get up there, if someone could use that gun, they could hit the German infantry, slow the advance, give Company B time to set up a defense in the trees. It was insane. The tank was on fire. It could explode any second. Anyone on top would be exposed to 6 tanks and 200 infantry. But if no one did it, Company B was finished. Audie looked at Danny. "Get back to the trees. Tell Captain Anderson I need artillery on my position. Danger close." "What? Sarge, what are you talking about?" Audie was already running toward the burning M10. Danny stood there frozen for 2 seconds. Then he understood. He started screaming. "Sergeant Murphy, get back here! What are you doing?" Audie did not answer. He reached the M10 and pulled himself up onto the deck. The metal was hot even through his gloves. Smoke was everywhere. The ammunition inside was popping like fireworks. The whole tank smelled like burning gasoline and melting rubber. He climbed to the top where the .50 caliber was mounted. The gun was intact. He checked the ammunition belt, still loaded. He pulled the charging handle. The bolt slid back and forward. The gun worked. He swung the barrel toward the advancing Germans and opened fire. The .50 caliber fired 600 rounds per minute. Each round was half an inch wide and could punch through a brick wall. Audie fired in short controlled bursts, sweeping across the German infantry line. Germans started dropping. They scattered, diving for cover, trying to figure out where the fire was coming from. Through the smoke, they could not see it was 1 man on a burning tank. Inside the lead German tank, Hauptmann Friedrich Weber was standing in the commander's hatch, watching the attack through binoculars. He was 32 years old. He had been fighting since Poland in 1939. He had a wife and 2 daughters in Munich. Their photograph was in his breast pocket. Weber watched his infantry advance behind the tanks. This was supposed to be simple. American forces were weak here, undermanned. His orders were to push through and take the forest, secure the road. Simple. Then the machine gun opened up. Weber saw his men start falling. He swung his binoculars toward the source. He saw the burning American tank destroyer. Through the smoke and flames, he could see movement on top. 1 man. one single man firing a machine gun. Weber could not believe what he was seeing. One American was stopping his entire attack. He grabbed his radio. "All units, concentrate fire on that burning tank destroyer. Kill that gunner." The German tanks tried to target the M10, but the smoke was too thick. They were afraid of hitting their own infantry. The German soldiers tried to advance, but every time they moved, the .50 caliber cut them down. Back at the tree line, Captain Anderson was watching through binoculars. He saw one of his men on top of the burning tank, firing at the Germans. He grabbed his radio man. "Get me Murphy on the field phone." The radio man handed him the phone. Anderson could hear shooting in the background. "Murphy, what the hell are you doing? Get off that tank." Audie's voice came through, calm, like he was giving a weather report. "Sir, I need artillery. Drop it 50 yards in front of my position. You are on a burning tank that is about to explode." "Yes, sir. I can hold them here if you give me artillery support." Anderson looked at his company. They were scattered, disorganized. If the Germans pushed now, it would be a massacre. He needed time. He had one sergeant on a burning tank buying him that time. Anderson called battalion artillery. Fire mission. Coordinates followed. The first shells landed 10 seconds later. They hit right in the middle of the German infantry formation. Bodies flew through the air. The German advance stopped. Audie grabbed the field phone. Drop 50 and fire for effect. The next shells landed 50 yards closer. More explosions. More Germans down. The advance had stopped completely, but the Germans were not retreating. Hauptmann Weber was on his radio, screaming at his infantry to advance. The Germans started moving again, trying to flank around the artillery. Audie saw them coming from the left. He swung the .50 caliber and fired. The Germans went down. More came from the right. He swung and fired again. The barrel was starting to glow red from the heat. Then he saw Danny Cooper. Danny was running across the open field toward the M10. He was carrying extra ammunition cans. He was trying to reach Audie, trying to help. Audie saw him and screamed into the noise. "Go back! Get back to the trees!" Danny could not hear him over the shooting. He kept running. 50 yards, 40 yards, 30 yards. The German sniper shot him at 25 yards. Danny went down in the snow. He did not get back up. Audie watched this happen. He stopped firing. For 3 seconds, he just stared at Danny's body lying in the snow. The kid from Alabama who had asked him about the odds, who had been following him for 2 months, who had tried to help him. Something broke inside Audie's chest. Not sadness, rage, pure burning rage. He swung the .50 caliber toward where the sniper shot had come from, a farmhouse window 200 yards away. He fired a full burst, 30 rounds straight into that window. The glass shattered. The wall collapsed. The sniper did not fire again. Then Audie went back to firing at the German infantry. But now he was not being careful, not being tactical. He was just killing. Every German he saw, every target. He fired until the barrel was glowing orange, until his shoulder ached from recoil, until his hands were shaking. The Germans launched another assault, 70 infantry rushing forward in a coordinated charge. Audie called in more artillery. The shells landed right in front of the charging Germans. The assault broke apart. Men retreated. Hauptmann Weber was watching this through his binoculars. His attack had been going for 30 minutes, and he had made no progress. He had lost at least 40 men, and it was all because of one American on a burning tank. Weber looked at the photograph in his pocket. His daughters, 6 and 8 years old. He thought about them. Then he looked at his men dying in the snow. He made a decision. He called his artillery observer. "Give me coordinates on that burning tank destroyer. Direct fire." The German artillery shells started landing around the M10. The first one hit 30 yards away. The explosion shook the tank. Shrapnel whistled past Audie's head. The second shell hit closer. Dirt and ice sprayed across the deck. The third shell hit 15 yards away. The concussion knocked Audie sideways. He felt something hot slam into his left shoulder. He looked down. Blood was spreading across his jacket. Shrapnel. A piece of metal the size of a knife blade was sticking out of his shoulder, just below the collarbone. He could not feel his left arm. He tried to move it. It would not move. He was holding the machine gun with his right hand only now. Blood was running down inside his sleeve. He kept firing. The field phone was lying on the deck next to him. He could not pick it up with his left hand. He had to put down the machine gun, grab the phone with his right hand, call in artillery coordinates, then drop the phone and go back to the machine gun. Every movement sent pain shooting through his shoulder. He did this 5 more times. Call artillery, fire the gun, call artillery, fire the gun. The blood kept flowing. His jacket was soaked with it now. His vision was getting blurry. At 15:15 hours, Hauptmann Weber made his final decision. This attack was not working. He had lost over 60 men. He had not advanced more than 50 yards. One American was stopping his entire battalion. It was impossible, but it was happening. He ordered retreat. The German tanks started backing up. The infantry followed, running back toward Holzwihr. They left their dead in the snow. Audie watched them go. He kept the machine gun aimed until they were out of range. Then he tried to climb down from the tank. His legs would not work. He sat down hard on the deck. The field phone was next to him. He picked it up with his right hand. "Captain Anderson." "Sir, they are retreating." Anderson's voice came through the phone. "Murphy, are you hit?" "Yes, sir. I need a medic. Can you get down?" Audie looked at his shoulder. The blood had soaked through his jacket and was dripping onto the deck. He could not feel his left arm at all. His vision was narrowing. He was going into shock. "No, sir, I cannot get down." Captain Anderson and 2 soldiers ran across the field to the M10. They climbed up. Anderson looked at Audie's shoulder and went pale. "Jesus, Murphy, how long have you been hit?" "I do not know, sir. Maybe 20 minutes. "You have been firing with that wound for 20 minutes?" Audie did not answer. He was looking past Anderson at the field, at Danny Cooper's body still lying in the snow. They pulled Audie off the tank. A medic cut away his jacket and shirt. The shrapnel had gone through the muscle below the collarbone and lodged against the shoulder blade. The medic gave him morphine and started bandaging the wound. They were carrying Audie toward the trees when the M10 exploded. The ammunition finally cooked off completely. The blast was enormous. Flames shot 200 feet high. Pieces of metal flew across the field. One piece embedded itself in a tree 5 feet from where they were walking. Captain Anderson looked at the burning wreckage, then at Audie. "You were on that thing for over an hour." "Yes, sir. It could have exploded any second." "Yes, sir. Why did you stay?" Audie looked at Danny Cooper's body being carried past them on a stretcher. His face was covered with a jacket. Audie looked away. "They were killing my men," he said quietly. "I had to stop them." 2 days later, Audie was in a hospital tent 10 miles behind the lines. His shoulder was bandaged. The doctor said he would recover, but the wound would take months to heal properly. He was being sent back to a field hospital in Nancy for surgery. A nurse brought him a stack of mail that had caught up with the company. Letters from soldiers in Company B. Most of them said the same thing. "Thank you. You saved my life." Audie read them without feeling anything. Words on paper. They did not bring Danny Cooper back. At the bottom of the stack was one more letter. The envelope was different. Civilian paper. American stamp. It was addressed to Second Lieutenant Audie Murphy, care of Company B. He opened it. The handwriting was shaky, like someone old or someone crying. "Dear Lieutenant Murphy, my name is Sarah Cooper. I am Danny's mother. My son wrote me about you before he died. He said you were the bravest man he ever met. He said if anything happened to him, I should know that he died trying to help you. He said you were worth dying for. I do not understand war. I do not understand why my boy had to die in France. But if he had to die, I am glad he died helping someone brave. Thank you for trying to save him. Please come home safe. Sarah Cooper." Audie read the letter twice. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his pocket next to the letter from his sister about the orphanage. 2 pieces of paper. 2 reasons to survive. He lay back on the cot and looked at the ceiling of the tent. His shoulder hurt. His head hurt. Everything hurt. But he was alive. Danny Cooper was not. Frank Kovach was not. Dozens of others were not. Audie did not understand why he kept surviving when better men kept dying. He did not understand why Danny had run across that field trying to help him. He did not understand any of it. He only knew one thing. He could not let them die for nothing. He had to survive. He had to get home. He had to take care of his brothers and sisters. He had to make sure Danny Cooper and Frank Kovach and all the others had died protecting something that mattered. That was all he had left. That was all that kept him going. 3 months later, on June 2nd, 1945, Lieutenant General Alexander Patch presented Audie Murphy with the Medal of Honor. The citation said he had killed or wounded approximately 50 enemy soldiers. It said he had shown extraordinary courage and leadership. It said he had saved Company B from destruction. Audie stood at attention while they pinned the medal on his chest. He thought about Danny Cooper running across that field. He thought about Frank Kovach dying from infection. He thought about all the men who never got medals because they did not survive long enough to receive them. When they asked him later why he had stayed on that burning tank, Audie gave the only answer he could think of that made any sense. "They were killing my men. Someone had to stop them." That was all there was to it. No grand philosophy, no heroic speech. Just a soldier doing what soldiers do when the people next to them are dying. The part Audie never said out loud was simpler and darker. He had stayed on that tank because he did not care if he died. After watching Danny Cooper get shot. After all the men he had seen die. After 2 years of war, dying would have been easier than living, but he had not died, and now he had to figure out how to live with that. The Aero Commander 680 hit Brush Mountain at 1420 hours on May 28, 1971. The impact was immediate. The plane disintegrated against the rocks. Fire consumed what was left. Audie Murphy died instantly. He was 45 years old. In his jacket pocket was a letter he had been carrying for 6 months. It was addressed to someone who had been dead for 26 years. 26 years earlier, Audie Murphy came home from the war. The troopship docked in New York on June 13, 1945. There were parades, photographers, politicians who shook his hand and called him a hero. Audie stood in his uniform with his medals and tried to feel something, anything. But there was nothing, just emptiness where something used to be. At night on the ship crossing the Atlantic, Audie had tried to sleep in his bunk below deck. The walls were too close. The space was too small. He felt like he was suffocating. He went up on deck and slept there instead, under the open sky. The other soldiers thought it was strange. Audie did not care what they thought. He could not breathe in enclosed spaces anymore. After the ceremonies in New York, Audie took a train to Texas. He had not been home in 3 years. His older sister Corinne had written him that she rented a house in Farmersville. She used the money he sent home every month to get their younger siblings out of the orphanage. The family was together again. That was what Audie had been fighting for. That was supposed to make it worth it. He arrived at the house on a hot afternoon in late June. Corinne met him at the door. She was 28 now. She looked older than he remembered. She hugged him and started crying. She said she was so happy he was home safe. Audie hugged her back, but he felt like he was watching someone else do it, like he was not really there. His younger siblings came running out. There was Eugene, 14 now, Verda, 12, Billy, 10, Nadine, 9. They looked at him like he was a stranger, which he was. He had left 3 years ago as their brother. He came back as someone else. Nadine, the youngest, asked if he was really a hero, like the newspapers said. Audie told her the newspapers exaggerated. She asked if he killed all those Germans. Audie felt something cold move through his chest. He said he did not want to talk about the war. Nadine looked hurt. She went back inside. That night, Corinne made dinner. She cooked chicken and potatoes and green beans. It was the first home-cooked meal Audie had eaten in 3 years. Everyone sat around the table. His siblings were talking and laughing. Corinne was asking him questions about the war. Where did he go? What did he see? Was he scared? Audie could not answer. His hands were shaking. The room felt too small, too many people, too much noise. He stood up suddenly. He said he needed air. He walked outside and stood in the yard, breathing hard. Corinne came out after him. She asked if he was all right. Audie said he was fine, just tired. She said he should go to bed, get some rest. Audie nodded. He went to the bedroom Corinne had prepared for him. Real bed, real sheets, real pillow. He lay down and closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was back in France. German artillery was falling. Danny Cooper was running toward him through the snow. The German sniper was taking aim. Audie tried to shout a warning, but no sound came out. He watched Danny get shot, watched him fall, watched the snow turn red. Audie woke up screaming. It was 0200 hours. He was covered in sweat. His heart was hammering. He looked around the room. Texas, not France, home, safe. But it did not feel safe. Nothing felt safe. He got up and went outside. He took his pillow and lay down on the ground in the backyard. The ground was hard, but it felt more familiar than the bed. The sky was open above him. He could breathe. He lay there until dawn came. This became his routine. Every night he tried to sleep inside. Every night the nightmares came. Every night he ended up outside on the ground. After a week, Corinne stopped asking questions. She just let him sleep wherever he could. 3 weeks after Audie came home, his brother Eugene came into his room one morning to wake him for breakfast. Audie was asleep. Eugene touched his shoulder. Audie woke up swinging. His fist caught Eugene in the face before he was fully awake. Eugene fell back, blood pouring from his nose. Audie stared at his hands. He had just hit his 14-year-old brother, a kid, because someone touched him while he was sleeping. Corinne came running. She saw Eugene bleeding. She saw Audie standing there, shaking. She took Eugene to the bathroom to clean him up. When she came back, Audie was sitting on the floor with his head in his hands. "What happened?" she asked. "I thought I was back there," Audie said. "I thought someone was attacking me." Corinne sat down next to him. "Audie, you need to see a doctor. This is not normal. I am fine. I just need time." But time did not help. A week later, Audie was in town buying groceries. A car backfired on the street. The sound was sharp, loud, like a rifle shot. Audie dropped to the ground behind a parked car, reaching for a weapon that was not there. People stopped and stared. Someone asked if he was okay. Audie got up and walked away. He left the groceries in the street. That night, he bought a pistol, a German Walther P38. He had taken it off a German officer in France. He kept it. He told himself it was for protection. But the truth was simpler. The gun made him feel safe. The gun reminded him he could still fight. He started sleeping with the gun under his pillow. Corinne found it one morning when she was making the bed. She asked why he needed a gun. Audie said he just liked having it there. She did not argue. She could see he was barely holding together. In October 1945, Audie received a telegram from Hollywood. James Cagney, the movie actor, had seen his picture on the cover of Life magazine. Cagney wanted to meet him. He thought Audie should try acting. Audie did not know anything about acting, but he knew he could not stay in Texas. His family was afraid of him. He was afraid of himself. In November, Audie took a bus to Los Angeles. He had $300 and Cagney's address. Cagney was kind. He introduced Audie to people in the film industry. Audie was offered small roles, walk-on parts, background work. He took whatever they gave him. The work was easy, but Hollywood was strange. Everyone was fake. Everyone was performing all the time. The other actors asked about the war. They wanted stories, funny stories, heroic stories. Audie did not have those. He had stories about men dying, about killing people, about being so scared you could not breathe. Those were not the stories they wanted to hear. The nightmares continued. Every night, the same dreams. France, the tank destroyer, Danny Cooper, German artillery. Audie would wake up at 0200 or 0300 hours, drenched in sweat, reaching for the gun under his pillow. Sometimes he would wake up pointing the gun at the door, convinced Germans were coming through. In 1948, Audie met a woman named Wanda Hendricks. She was an actress, 20 years old, beautiful. She did not know much about the war. She thought Audie was handsome and brave. They got married in January 1949. The marriage lasted 2 years. Years later, Wanda would tell a reporter what it was like being married to Audie Murphy. She said he never slept more than 3 hours a night. She said he had nightmares that made him scream and thrash. She said one night he woke up and held the gun to her head before he realized where he was. She said he cried afterward and said he was sorry. She said she forgave him, but she was terrified. She said living with Audie was like living with someone who was still at war. They divorced in 1951. Audie did not blame her. He would have left himself if he could. That same year, a doctor prescribed sleeping pills, Placidol. The pills worked. For the first time since the war ended, Audie could sleep through the night without nightmares. He started taking them every night. Then during the day when he felt anxious. Within a year, he was taking them every few hours just to function. He was addicted. In 1949, Audie wrote a book about his life. He called it To Hell and Back. He wrote about Texas, about his mother dying, about the war, about the men who died. He wrote it all down because he thought if he got it out, maybe it would stop haunting him. The book became a bestseller. Universal Pictures bought the rights and wanted to make a movie. They wanted Audie to play himself. The movie was filmed in 1955. Audie was 30 years old. He had been out of the war for 10 years, but it felt like yesterday. The production company built a replica of the M10 tank destroyer. They built the field outside Holtzwihr. They hired actors to play Germans. They asked Audie to recreate the worst day of his life. The premiere was at the Majestic Theater in Los Angeles on August 23, 1955. 2,000 people filled the theater. Hollywood stars, reporters, studio executives. Audie sat in the back row wearing a suit. Next to him was his second wife, Pamela. The lights went down. The movie started. Audie watched himself on screen. Movie Audie was brave and calm. Movie Audie made jokes between battles. Movie Audie climbed on the burning tank destroyer and fought the Germans with heroic music playing. The audience cheered. But something was wrong. The battle was too clean. The violence was too sanitized. And Danny Cooper was not there. They had cut him out. The director said it would make the movie too depressing. They said audiences wanted a hero story, not a tragedy. Audie watched the tank destroyer scene. On screen, Movie Audie was standing on the burning tank, firing the machine gun, looking heroic. The camera showed Germans falling. It showed American soldiers watching in awe. It showed Captain Anderson calling in artillery. It did not show Danny Cooper running across the field. It did not show him getting shot. It did not show Audie screaming. Audie stood up. Pamela grabbed his arm. "Where are you going?" she whispered. "The movie is not over." Audie did not answer. He walked up the aisle and out of the theater. Outside in the alley behind the building, he bent over and threw up. He stood there for 5 minutes, hands on his knees, trying to breathe. The producer found him 10 minutes later. "Murphy, what happened? You missed the ending. The audience loved it." Audie looked at him. "You cut Danny out." "Who?" "Private Danny Cooper. He was there. He tried to help me. He got killed." The producer looked uncomfortable. "We had to make some changes for pacing. The audience would not have understood who he was." "He was 19 years old," Audie said. "He was from Alabama. He wrote letters to his mother every week. He died trying to help me. And you cut him out because of pacing." "Murphy, it is just a movie. It is not a documentary." Audie walked away. He got in his car and drove home. He did not go to the after party. He did not do any interviews. He went home and took 4 sleeping pills and tried to forget that he had just turned the worst day of his life into entertainment. The movie was a massive success. It became the highest-grossing film Universal Pictures had ever made. It would hold that record for 20 years until Jaws. Audie Murphy became a movie star. Over the next 15 years, he made 44 films. Most of them were westerns. He played cowboys and sheriffs and gunfighters. He was always the hero. He always won. The audiences loved him. But Audie was dying inside. By 1965, he was taking sleeping pills every few hours just to function. He could not work without them. He could not sleep without them. He tried to quit several times. The withdrawal made him violently sick, shaking, sweating, hallucinating. After 3 days, he would take the pills again. In February 1966, Audie checked into a small hotel in Los Angeles. He told no one where he was going. He paid for the room for a week in cash. He locked the door, he threw away the pills, and he decided he was going to break the addiction or die trying. The first day was manageable. He felt anxious, restless. He could not sleep, but that was normal. The second day was worse. His hands started shaking. He started sweating even though the room was cold. The third day was hell. Audie lay on the floor of that hotel room, shaking uncontrollably. His clothes were soaked with sweat. He could not keep any food down. His head felt like it was splitting open, and the hallucinations started. He saw Danny Cooper standing in the corner of the room. Danny was wearing his uniform. There was a bullet hole in his chest. Blood was spreading across his jacket. He was looking at Audie. "Sarge," Danny said, "why did not you save me?" "I tried," Audie said. "I tried to tell you to go back. You should have saved me. I could not. I was on the tank. I could not leave. You let me die." Audie closed his eyes. When he opened them, Danny was gone. But Frank Kovach was there instead, lying on the ground with his infected wound. His eyes were open, staring. "You saved me and I died anyway," Kovach said. "What was the point?" "I do not know," Audie whispered. The hallucinations continued for 3 more days. Germans coming through the walls, artillery shells exploding in the hotel room, the tank destroyer burning, all of it happening again and again. On the 7th day, Audie woke up. The hallucinations were gone. His hands were still shaking, but the worst was over. He stood up. He took a shower. He looked at himself in the mirror. He looked like hell. He had lost 15 pounds. His eyes were bloodshot, but he had done it. He had broken the addiction. He walked out of that hotel room and never took another sleeping pill. But the nightmares came back. For the rest of his life, Audie Murphy never slept more than 3 or 4 hours a night. He moved into the garage of his house and slept there alone with the lights on and the gun under his pillow. It was the only way he could sleep at all. By the late 1960s, Audie's acting career was over. He was too old for leading man roles. The westerns were not popular anymore. He tried other business ventures, but nothing worked. He was running out of money. In 1968, he started speaking publicly about what the military was now calling post-traumatic stress disorder. Most people still called it battle fatigue or shell shock. But Audie called it what it was, a wound that never healed. He gave interviews. He talked about his nightmares, his addiction, his violent outbursts. He said the military spent millions training men to kill, but spent nothing helping them come home. He said they gave medals for being brave in war, but abandoned men when they came home broken. This made him unpopular with some people. War heroes were supposed to be strong. Admitting problems made him look weak. But Audie did not care. He had been hiding for 23 years. It had not helped. In March 1970, Audie was invited to testify before a congressional committee on Veterans Affairs. He took a train to Washington. On the train, he wrote notes for what he wanted to say. He crossed out most of them. In the end, he decided to just tell the truth. The hearing room was formal. Wood paneling, American flags, a long table where the congressman sat looking important. Audie sat alone at a small table facing them. There were reporters in the back of the room, cameras. The committee chairman, a senator from Ohio, thanked Audie for coming. He said it was an honor to have America's most decorated veteran here today. He asked Audie to share his thoughts on veteran mental health services. Audie looked at the microphone in front of him. He thought about Danny Cooper, about Frank Kovach, about all the men who never made it home, about all the men who made it home but never really came back. He leaned forward and spoke. My name is Audie Murphy. I served in the United States Army from 1942 to 1945. I was awarded the Medal of Honor and every other combat decoration this country can give. I killed approximately 240 enemy soldiers. I was wounded 3 times. I came home in 1945, and I have not had a full night's sleep since. The room was silent. For 25 years, I have had nightmares about the war. I see the men I killed. I see the men I could not save. I wake up screaming. I sleep with a loaded gun under my pillow because I am afraid. Not afraid of enemies, afraid of my own memories. For 20 years, I was addicted to sleeping pills. I took them every few hours just to function. In 1966, I locked myself in a hotel room for a week to break the addiction. It was the hardest thing I have ever done, harder than the war, and I am one of the lucky ones. Thousands of veterans are suffering in silence. They cannot sleep. They cannot work. They cannot be with their families without being afraid they will hurt someone. And we give them nothing. We send them to war. We teach them to kill. We give them medals. And then we tell them to go home and be normal. It does not work that way. One of the congressmen interrupted. Mr. Murphy, with all due respect, many veterans come home and adjust just fine. Perhaps the problem is not the military, but the individual. Audie looked at him. Sir, I would like to know how many of those well-adjusted veterans you have asked. How many have you asked if they sleep through the night? How many wake up thinking they are back in combat? How many have thought about killing themselves? The congressman did not answer. Audie continued. I am asking you to fund mental health services for veterans. I am asking you to train doctors to treat combat trauma. I am asking you to acknowledge that what we ask men to do in war has consequences, and those consequences do not end when the war ends. The committee thanked him for his testimony. Some of them looked uncomfortable. A few looked moved. One congressman, a veteran of Korea, had tears in his eyes. After the hearing, he came up to Audie and shook his hand. He said, "Thank you for saying what needed to be said." Audie did not know if his testimony would change anything, but at least he had tried. In October 1970, Audie did something he had been avoiding for 25 years. He went to Arlington National Cemetery. He went to Section 34. He walked between the rows of white headstones until he found the one he was looking for. Danny Cooper, Private First Class, United States Army, died January 26, 1945, age 19. Audie stood there looking at the headstone. He had not been to the funeral. He had been in the hospital recovering from his wounds. He had never visited the grave. He had told himself it was because he was too busy. The truth was, he could not face it. He knelt down in front of the headstone. He put his hand on the cold marble. I am sorry, Danny. I tried to tell you to go back. You should not have run out there. You should have stayed in the trees. His voice broke. You were a good kid. You deserved better than this. You deserved to go home, to see your mother again, to have a life. I do not know why I survived, and you did not. I do not understand any of it. He sat there for a long time. People walked by, but no one bothered him. Finally, he stood up. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He had written it the night before. He placed it under a rock at the base of the headstone. The letter said, Danny, wherever you are, I hope you know I have been trying to make your death mean something. I have tried to help other veterans. I have tried to tell people what war really costs. I do not know if it is enough. I do not know if anything is enough. But I am still trying. I will see you soon. Your Sergeant, Audie Murphy. 7 months later, Audie Murphy died in a plane crash in Virginia. At the funeral at Arlington National Cemetery, thousands of veterans came to pay their respects. They stood in the rain and saluted as the honor guard carried the casket. The Army band played taps, the rifles fired, the flag was folded and presented to his widow. After the funeral, as they were going through Audie's belongings, someone found a letter in his jacket pocket. It was sealed in an envelope. The envelope was worn, like it had been carried for a long time. The address on the envelope said, "Private First Class Danny Cooper, wherever you are." Inside was a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was shaky. It said, "Danny, I'm on my way to Virginia for a business meeting. The weather is bad and the pilot seems nervous. I keep thinking about that day in France. You running across the field. Me trying to warn you. I have carried this guilt for 26 years. If something happens to me today, I want you to know I never forgot you. I never stopped trying to make your sacrifice mean something. I hope I did. I hope it was enough. I will see you soon. Audie." The letter was dated May 28, 1971, the day Audie Murphy died. They buried the letter with him. It seemed right that after 26 years, Audie Murphy and Danny Cooper were finally in the same place. Both at Arlington, both at peace. At least, that is what people wanted to believe, that there was peace at the end, that the war finally let them go. But the truth is more complicated. War does not let go. It holds on. It follows you home. It lives in your dreams. It changes who you are in ways you cannot change back. Audie Murphy was a hero, but he was also a casualty, not of German bullets, of what those bullets made him do, of what they made him see, of what they made him become. He survived the war, but he never really came home.